Today I'm drinking water because I am dehydrated. So I'm here to review the Necroseam Chronicles by Ellie Rain. I have book 4 here with me. It's the only one I have right now. The rest are back in Maine. This is a series of young adult fantasy novels written by Ellie Rain. Currently there are 4 books available, I believe. I own and have read the first 4. The 5th one may be out at this point, or it might just be available for pre-order. There's supposed to be a release party at JordanCon, but things have changed. So I want to just clarify that, like, the opinions I have for this, the statements I make about this, are only going to be applicable partially because I haven't finished the series, and for me, endings can drastically change how I feel about things. I haven't ordered the 5th book yet just because mail services and everything are just really insane now, so even if it is out, I don't have it yet. There's also a prequel novella that I also own but haven't read yet. It's wrapped on my shelves, but really I don't want that to affect how I feel about things because things like prequels and outriggers, it's not that they don't count, but it's separate from the main story itself. The premise of these books I find a little hard to sum up just because a lot of the information doesn't get revealed until later in the story. Basic idea is that it's about these twin brothers, Alex and Xavier. Xavier? Never occurred to me that I didn't know how to pronounce his name until right this moment. Alex and Xavier are twin brothers. Xavier has recently gone missing. I guess not recently. Xavier has been missing, presumed dead for a long time, and Alex sets out on a quest, I suppose, to find his brother. And then wacky shenanigans ensue. No, it's a little more serious than that. The two of them and a bunch of their friends ends up embroiled in this huge international conflict. Overall, I really liked this series. It was fun, it wasn't super dense or heavy, it was a little bit of a fluffy read, but on average I'd say I'd give the series about a 3.5, 3.75. Let's go back and forth. We'll do some positives and some negatives about this. On the good side, this world was kind of amazing. It takes what seems almost a common or cliched concept of like elemental magic, but it makes it more interesting. It adds a little depth to that magic that I wasn't expecting to find. This world has this really fascinating history and a really exciting mythology that I can't really talk about here because it's not really revealed until like book 3, until we're like halfway through the story. But what I can tell you about is a little bit about the culture and the magic that is in this world. This world is divided into 5 realms: land, sea, sky, death, and dream, so not quite your typical elements. Each of these 5 realms have 3 magics. I'll show you just a little bit of that chart. Can you see that? That are allowed. The people of this world, which are called shifters because they're part human, part animal, will usually have control of one of these powers. Very rare people will have 2, and then the royal lines for each realm have all 3 of their realms' powers. So, for example, the Princess of Death is important, and she has all 3 of the death powers. The roles in the different realms are very interesting too, like the roles that they play in the world. So death is the one we focus on the most. We get to see that a lot and how death works in this world, both as like the concept of dying and death as in like the realm. And that's really fascinating. Dream has some really interesting things about like guarding people's dreams. The sky realm has kind of an almost, oh gosh, this is going to sound insulting, but I mean this in a good way. The Sky Realm has like a Pegasi from My Little Pony thing going on, but I like it. So there's just this really complex world where everybody works together and their roles are woven, and it's kind of that if you remove a piece, everything's going to fall apart kind of thing. So if we're going to go into a negative, something that you might have already kind of picked up on from what I've said is that information is given out very slowly and sparingly in this series. One of the main plot threads is this whole thing that has to do with a prophecy, and the reader and even most of the characters don't even learn that there is a prophecy until the 3rd book. and I just finished the 4th book, and we're still piecing together what exactly this prophecy is. As a Wheel of Time fan, this might seem like a weird criticism, and it wouldn't bother me if the information being doled out felt more purposeful. But there's definitely times through this series where it feels like we're getting information only because that's when it's suddenly relevant, in a way that maybe makes me wonder how much of this was planned out ahead of time and how much was kind of thrown in as needed. And that could just be me misinterpreting things, because there are other times this isn't the case, where we find something out and later get a call back to it. So it might just be something I'm sensitive to in some way, where I don't like getting information this way, but something to be aware of. When you're jumping into the first book, things change pretty drastically from book to book, and you don't find out about it until you get there. I'm gonna do another negative here just because I think they kind of chain together, is that, well, information was very sparingly given. Characters were not. It felt like there were a lot of characters dumped very quickly in just the first 2 books. Introducing so many characters so quickly made it a little difficult to keep up with what was going on to determine what mattered, but you eventually figure it out. Personally, the bigger issue that came with this for me, and this might not be for everyone, is that every character has a love interest. This isn't inherently a bad thing. I actually think a surprising number of these pairings were done well and were actually developed. But it's just that, for me personally, there were too many, and I found it hard to care about any of these relationships. To be fair, though, there is one gay couple and an exploration of interrace couples, so at least there's an attempt at diverse relationships, I suppose. On the plus side, despite the large number of characters, they all feel distinct. It's not quite Wheel of Time levels of character development and every character having their own unique arc. Even many of the villains have depth, which is something I personally appreciate, and each of the characters feels distinct. When you're in their point of view, they have a different voice, they think of things differently enough that after that first book, I could really start to tell them apart. Finally, I do have one last negative. This might be completely in my head, but for fairness of providing a complete review, I need to include it. I'll warn that you might find it a little bit spoilery, just in terms of theme and some world building. I'll keep it as vague as I can, but if you're worried and you're somebody that likes to go in with absolutely no spoilers, I'll post the time and you can skip there to just get to my conclusion. I just want to reiterate and clarify, if you're here, that this is my interpretation of the theme, and that this might not be Ellie Rain's intent at all. There's a very good chance that I'm just reading into something that wasn't meant to be there. But it feels like the series is setting up this church versus education conflict and saying that the church is the correct side of this. Basically, this prophecy that gets revealed says that there are 2 chosen ones. One that is destined to save the world, and the other is destined to destroy it. The chosen one that the narrative is setting up as the bad guy is trying to, in his estimation, save the world by building schools and trying to dismantle the authority of the religion. On the other hand, the good guy chosen one is supported by and supporting the religion of the world. This might be an attempt at criticizing both of them, that maybe it's showing the propaganda of both religion and education and trying to show that. But at this point, if that's the intent, it's really missing the mark, because very clearly one is the good guy and one is the bad guy. But again, this might just be in my head, and there might be something in the 5th book that changes this. So anyway, I think this is a really great series, and I'm looking forward to reading the final book and seeing how everything gets resolved. I really think this would fit well with the YouTube YA fantasy darlings that they have out there. Ellie Rain's writing has clearly improved and gotten much better with each book, and I can't wait to see how this rounds out. But at this point, I've finished one series, more or less, and so it's time to get to the next one. I rolled the dice, and I'm not sure, but I got book 1. I think I know what this is, and I'm really excited if it's what I think it is. Yeah, that's what I figured. And it's Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. And I'm really excited for this because I don't even know what it's about, but I think I heard something about lesbian necromancers in the description. So, see you guys next time. Bye.